Hello, and welcome to The Hardest Part, the show that unravels the stories behind the most challenging songs ever written. I'm Kieron Banerji, and joining me in the studio on this episode is Ashaine White. Now, when I spoke to her about her song Hotel, she shared the personal and emotional journey that made it one of the hardest tracks she's ever written. The song is rooted in a phrase she often heard growing up: "You treat this house like a hotel." As a teenager and young adult, hearing those words stirred up a lot of anxiety and frustration, and it made her feel misunderstood and slightly rebellious, as she just wanted to be out in the world, exploring and expressing her creative spirit. However, the real challenge in writing Hotel came from trying to see things from her mother's perspective. Now at 27, living in her own home, she began to reflect on how her mother must have felt saying those words, not out of annoyance, but out of concern and love. As a single parent raising young girls, especially in a world that can be tough for young women, her mother had to curtail parts of herself to keep them safe and grounded. The song navigates these dual perspectives: the younger self, full of defiance and a desire for independence, and the older, more reflective self, who understands the deeper emotions behind her mother's words. Writing this song meant digging deep into those feelings, balancing the raw emotions of her youth with the empathy and understanding she's gained with time. It's a song that captures the complexity of growing up, the tensions between parents and children, and the eventual realization that those tensions often come from a place of love and protection. Make sure to stay tuned to hear Hotel in full at the end of this episode. But before that, here's my chat with Ashaine White.
Hotel is a song about, I don't know you ever got this when you were younger, but I was always told that I treat my house like a hotel and I'm never here and I'm in and out and it's a revolving door, you just come and do your laundry and leave. And I kind of wanted to write a song about how it made me feel as a teenager, young adult, being told that. And and the angst that kind of wells up in my spirit to hear that phrase, which is why I think it was the hardest song for me to write, was that I wanted to think about it from that perspective of being a young adult, and that being like, oh, why is mum always blah blah blah, to going to being like 27 and in my own house now and thinking about like how my mum would have felt saying those words to me. Like, she wasn't just doing it to like annoy me, she was doing it to keep me safe and make sure she wasn't alone. So it was quite a hard thing to try and get out of my feelings, get out of my inner child, and really to think about how she felt in that moment.
Okay, so the song kind of has two sides to it. So it's from your perspective and from her perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I guess to break that down then, from your perspective, how did that make you feel when you heard that for the first time?
I would always be like, well, I didn't ask to be born, I didn't ask to be born, didn't ask to live here. I just want to be me. And I just I'm a creative spirit. I wanted to be out and about. To hear those words made me, as a writer, if I did treat this house like a hotel, I'd be in it by myself. And you wouldn't be here because I'd be on my own. And you wouldn't be like, wah, 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 in my ear. So I had to and I probably wouldn't say that now as a 27-year-old person. Back then, that's how I would have felt. So it was like, how do I express that through the song? And do I go poetic or do I go conversational? Do I actually say exactly how I felt? So yeah, doing it from that part of me, like a slightly, less frontal lobe development and just trying to think about how that actually made me feel in that moment was really important for that side of the song.
And how did you think your mum felt at the time?
My mum was like a party girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was like out and about.
I thought she'd be well up for the hotel idea.
Well, exactly.
Right.
But I think it was more, as you grow those parts of you and you have children, especially young girls. My mum's a single parent. She had to kind of reduce those parts of herself while she was raising young women to make sure that we were safe,
Of course.
The world for a young woman, especially a young black woman, looks different to, a world for many others. So she had to curtail those parts of herself to raise us in a way. So I think she was just feeling about, one, maybe I don't want my kids to be like me as much and be out about in the town and doing things that she might have done, and she just wanted to keep us safe and also keep us children. I was 13, 14 and I wanted to be out, that's young. And I wanted to be at the bus stop drinking WKD and doing things I shouldn't do.
The glory days.
The glory days. It is the glory days, and it was the best thing ever, and it was the height of edginess at that age.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I was, and that's what I wanted to be, and
can't wait to brag about this on MySpace.
Well,
that was like the thing, right?
You would go and drink WKD and then take pictures for your MySpace.
Yeah.
You know, or your Facebook, maybe.
Listen to the Libertines.
Yeah, some Arcty Monkeys.
Exactly.
Like, just so edgy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted to do. And I think, my mum was just kind of like,
It's funny that, isn't it? Because, like, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. He just had his first kid. And he was like, you're going to be a really loose parent. Like, my parents were extremely laid back. They always have been, always will be. They had a lot of trust in me growing up. And they're like, you're going to be a really loose, liberal parent. Fuck no. I'm going to be so strict because I'm like, I don't want them drinking WKD as fuck.
But I feel like it's a rite of passage. It's an experience. And I don't know how, I haven't gotten to the point where I'm raising kids. I have a niece and she's like 6, so it's nowhere near like anything. But if, I don't know, she did come to me and she was like, Auntie Ash, I need you to pick me up because I drank too much WKD. I'd be like, well, that's very silly. She'll learn from it because the next day she'll have a sugar headache, you know?
Yeah, She won't touch a WKD ever again,
you know? And you have to kind of learn from those experiences.
Yeah.
As parents, you kind of have been there and done that. Or as an older person, you actually don't need to do that. Like, you could, maybe I could just avoid my kid going through that phase. But especially as a creative, you know, like, I've always been a singer and confident and out and about, and I wanted to be creative, and you have to go out and experience those bits of culture to do that, you know. But I did get it.
I guess these feelings and this anxiety of hearing that have stemmed from back when you were 14, right? So flash forward sort of 14 more years. How did this song come to pass? Like, when did you sit down and realize that you wanted to readdress that? Because what I'm hearing is that, like, you heard that at the time and it has kind of sat with you at the back of your mind for 14 years.
Yeah.
When was the moment, when was that spark of inspiration when you were like, I know, I want to write about this and this is why?
It's funny because the chords came together before the concept of the song at all. And Jibby, my producer, my songwriting partner, he was playing these chords and I just had this say so. That's all I had. I didn't know what the song was going to be about, but I knew it was going to say so in the chorus. And we sat down at the studio, I think the next day, or the first thing I put in my head was, you treat this house like a hotel. It wasn't Ash, it was you. And I kind of knew I wanted to, that phrase popped into my head. I don't even know why. Maybe the chords felt very, like, in a way they feel very free, but also they have this very specific structure and this specific ascending and descending pattern. And it felt like an ebb and flow. So when I thought about you treat this house like a hotel, I kind of wanted it to be more voyeuristic and not really about my own experience. But I struggled to write it. There was like a wall there. I was like, okay, first line, got it. And where do I go from here? Like, do I speak about other people's experience? And I turned to Jibby and I spoke to him and he was like, you should say Ash instead of you. And as soon as he said that, the whole song just kind of unfolded. And it was like, it wasn't even really like, what do I say here? It was kind of, I don't know, it felt like a conversation between two people. And the lyrics just started kind of rolling out and rolling through. And I think then I kind of realised how important of a part of my life that phrase was. And especially, like, I moved out of my mum's house in 2019, just before COVID. I had this, like, I don't know, winter of 2019 where I was trying to, you know, be a singer. I'd graduated uni and I was treating my own house like a hotel. I was never there. And I just moved into my new place and I wasn't even there to, you know, in that moment I was like, this phrase has so much of an impact on the way I live life now, lived life when I was 14, and will live life as a mother when I do have children, if and when I have children. So that was the changing you to Ash was the moment I was like, oh my God, this is about me. This is about my life and exactly how I've lived as a teenager to a young adult to an adult.
I'm interested. So until you kind of, I guess, made that decision to say, no, this is about me.
Yeah.
I guess it started with you wanting to change the perspective, probably because you wanted to communicate something to your audience, right? What purpose did you want it to serve your fans?
I actually have no idea. I know that's bad. But it's funny because when I write songs, especially on my last project, Ash, it was very like, it's quite an introspective thing for me. It's quite therapeutic. So when I'm writing, I'm never really thinking about, what I want the listeners to take away from this. It's more just like, I feel like now, once I've written the song, my audience will know my tone of voice more. They'll know where I've come from a little bit more, which I think is maybe why I was struggling with it being, you treat this house like a hotel. What was I writing this for?
Being honest to yourself almost, right?
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know. And I knew people would resonate with the phrase because it doesn't matter whether you had strict parents or like loose parents. You heard that phrase, you know, like it was a bit like, oh, you are never home. I'm not just here to do your washing. Like, So I knew that it would resonate with people, but it was like, okay, so how can I make this phrase sound or feel like it's coming from me, not it's just coming from whoever, like, would have said it to them, How can I have somebody have a little bit more of a view of my experience of that phrase, and hopefully that will trickle down to them being like, oh, it kind of feels like me, that kind of feels like something I've like experienced but in my own life, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I
wasn't really thinking about the listener, sorry listeners, but I wasn't really thinking about
listening. Obviously this, as you said at the beginning, this song came from anxiety you had, and when you start to write about that and maybe rehash those feelings that are from quite a while ago, I imagine you may have come across some creative blocks in the process as well, things that might have been extremely tricky to finalize or approach. What were those moments in this song, and sort of how did you overcome them?
I think the first verse came quite easily. So I felt like I was quite in touch with the emotion. I'd only just moved out of my mum's when I was in 2019, and I probably wrote this in 2022, I think. So it was like, wasn't too long since I'd experienced those actual feelings. So I think the kind of roadblock came with the second verse. It was like, how am I going to approach this? Am I going to say the same phrase again? Am I going to keep going down the rabbit hole of it being like me, I, my experience, boohoo, like look at me? Or am I going to do what I've like learnt to do as I've grown up, which is see both sides of the story and feel like we don't really treat our parents like they're people sometimes, and they also have inner children in them. Now I've kind of learnt to look at my 60-odd-year-old mum and be like, she's just a 27-year-old girl who's like kind of lost inside as well, and figuring it out. And especially parenthood is not anything that anybody teaches you. So thinking about that and thinking about it from somebody else's experience and the other side of the coin, like how is she feeling about this in that moment, helped to kind of clear up that path and that journey for where the next verse of the song should go. And it's funny because I was speaking to Jibby earlier before coming to do this, and I was like, I didn't write it. I wrote it alone, but I didn't write it alone, I wrote it with someone. And we were going to do a third verse, which was going to be like, start with my viewpoint and my mum's viewpoint, and then maybe like me as a mum at the end. But it kind of felt like it needed the space for the story to kind of like be continued, or like have the space to like sit with your thought. So we kind of decided to leave that last, and that was even more of a roadblock, that third verse, if we were to write it. And maybe we were just being lazy with not writing it, but I don't think so. I think having the gap at the end, especially in the production, there's a lot of like guitar feedback and like things that are kind of coming in and like elevating the tension, and then the release, and where you're just kind of sat with the chords thinking about what just occurred. And I feel like that's the stage that I'm at in my life now, as like, I've moved out of my mum's like 6 years ago now. I'm like in my career, I'm 27, I'm like on my way, and I feel like I'm in that third verse where I'm just kind of sitting and living in it and thinking about it. My mum's feelings, my feelings, I think the second verse was like the biggest roadblock. How am I going to approach this? Also, I want to make my mum feel seen in this song. Like, I don't want to like be just like attacking.
Well, that was going to be my next question actually, is assuming your mum's heard the song.
Yeah, she has.
What did your mum say when she listened to it? What did you chat about afterwards?
Yeah, it's funny because I think she's kind of getting to grips with being an empty nester. I don't know if it really settled with her yet what the song's about, because I'm still her baby, I'm the youngest, so, and especially I've moved away from my mum, like not far, I just moved to like another part of London, and it's still a new, because I was 10 minutes away from her before, so I was basically still there, and now I'm like a little bit separate, so I think it's still settling with her, but she loves it. And it's funny because my boyfriend's parents have also listened to the song, and they see it from like, they know me, but I didn't live in their house, like I'm not their child. Yeah. So they get to see it from the kind of perspective of like my boyfriend and
or another parent of that.
Or another parent. Yeah. And it's funny because I played it to a lot of parents and they're like, yeah, I feel seen by this song. And I'm like, okay, good.
Well,
but also
congratulations on vindicating a shit ton of parents.
Yeah.
Everyone can thank you for that.
Yeah, maybe I did the wrong thing. Sorry, all the teens that want to drink WKD at the bus stop. I think it's just nice for her to feel seen in the song, and I think she does, hopefully. I don't know, maybe I need to check in.
Well, everyone's going to hear the song in just a moment. You did a beautiful session for us, and I'm really excited for everyone to listen.
Hey, me too.
And I always wrap up all my interviews with this question, and it came from a place where I was getting on a flight. One of my favourite bands released a new record. I downloaded it offline, download them, and I listened to the whole thing on the plane.
Love that.
Listened to it, and I was like, I didn't like that one bit. And I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Yeah, kind of like made me not like them as much. Yeah. Then it flipped into an episode of a podcast that I'd also downloaded offline, my little queue, of the lead singer talking about the final track, what it meant. And he explained all these tiny nuances in the songwriting and the vocal performance and the instrumentation. And it changed the way I listened to that song forever. I think it's my favourite song of theirs now.
Wow.
So our audience are about to hear this really raw, stripped back version of this very personal song of yours. Is there anything you want them to specifically listen out to, whether it be a lyric or instrumentation choice, or even the way you're playing the song, playing your guitar? I think what people will hear is like, it's an extremely dynamic performance. I loved listening to the sort of dynamic element of how you're playing that song. What do you want them to listen out for that might change the way I listen to it?
Maybe this is a cop-out, but I'm such a type of artist that I just, once the song is out and it lives in the world, I want people to take in how they take in music. I try not to tell people or explain to people how to take in the song, you know? If it is like, you know, you need to walk around, pace around the room and listen to it, to take it in, do it. If you need to close your eyes to take it in, do it. If you need to sing along to take it in, do it. What I would ask the listener to do is really listen to the song. Whatever they need to do to zone in and focus and just hear me out, because I think these songs are like pages of my diary. They're like little inserts into my life and the way I think. So go with it, flow with it, go with the dynamic of the song, really take it in is all I ask.
Ash Street's his house like a hotel. If I did, then I'd be in it by myself. No need to define the terms or ask permission, oh, just to get to know. So if you say so, say so, I'll stay home. Ash treats his house like a hotel, and when she does, I'm left here by myself. Nothing lasts forever. Where can I just have some time? I know you need to grow, but if I say so, if I say so, could you stay home?
Thanks so much to Ashaine for coming on the show. Make sure to subscribe and follow The Hardest Part wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all major streaming platforms, that's Spotify, YouTube, and of course Apple Podcasts. This episode of The Hardest Part was recorded at the Thin White Duke Studios in London. It was recorded by Max Walker and it's mixed and produced by myself. Photos from today's session are by Callum Baker and additional videography is by Giovanni Alamonti. Thanks for tuning in.